The smoke is on, and here they come to open the East Fortune Airshow 2011, the SWIP team. This US-built aerobatic aircraft designed for unlimited competition flying. Indeed, the successor model to this Edge 360, the Edge 540, is now a highly successful participant in the Red Bull Air Race Championships. Typical G-forces that Gerald is experiencing during this display, as much as plus 10G during the pulls that he makes at high speed, with the outside corner turns being pegged back to about minus 8G. This display combining high-speed, fast hailer and rolling and snap rolling, both positive and negative G on the pilot in those manoeuvres.
Got an idea.
Gerald describes as accurate, no-holds-barred sequence.
I'm just going to watch the next helicopter and then I'll do something.
By the helicopter as it lands, so just be aware of that.
Are you?
Touches down here at East Fortune, enjoying a sinking helicopter, which will be parking behind it on that bit of hard standing. And here it comes then, over our right shoulder, the Bell UH-1H Iroquois in for a landing.
Helicopter, this is where you're going to land, isn't it? Come on! No.
No, it's one of the toys with something on it. And it was a roof.
And running in now from the right as the Huey touches down, a tremendous aeroplane, the North American OV-10B Bronco. This one of the aircraft that later will be featuring in our Vietnam War set piece. And this is one of the newcomers to East Fortune this year. In fact, it's only the second UK flying display by this particular Bronco, which is operated by the Bronco demo team and piloted for us here by Tony De Bruyne. This really is a tremendous aeroplane. The prototype first flew in July 1965, and 3 years later, the OV-10A model entered service with the United States Air Force. The engines providing that very distinctive sound, a pair of Garrett T76 turboprops, each delivering 715 horsepower. And this, although it may look a slightly ungainly beast, is really a tremendously impressive performer. Not least in the aerobatic mode, but here we see Tony De Bruyne coming in from the right with the undercarriage down for a low-speed pass. And from this, Tony will be pulling into a flat figure of 8 manoeuvre. The high visibility day glow markings on this Bronco indicate the fact that this is an ex-West German Luftwaffe example used in the target towing role. But it was in the Vietnam conflict where the Bronco really made its name. There'd been increasing interest on the part of the US military in a tough, easy to maintain and easy to operate close support aircraft in the early 1960s. And it was a rigorous requirement indeed. The aircraft had to be twin crew, it had to be able to withstand between +8 and -3G, it had to fly off aircraft carriers, though that was only seldom employed. It had to have a top speed of 350 miles an hour and so on. Was won by a design known as the North American NA300, which became the OV-10 Bronco, and it entered service in time to see much duty in Vietnam. The first to see action were Broncos of the US Marine Corps on observation and forward air control duties, and also US Air Force Broncos on operational evaluation, which were employed as forward air controllers, the type directing strikes by fast jet attack aircraft, AC-47 gunships and ground artillery. On this pass, we should see the Bronco demonstrating its aerobatic capabilities as Tony De Bruyn flies a barrel roll. As a light strike aircraft, in Vietnam the Bronco employed 7.62mm M60 machine guns and high explosive rockets, and some US Air Force examples received early laser designation equipment designating targets for US Air Force F-4 Phantoms. US Navy Broncos were also flown in Vietnam. They carried out light attack, interdiction and naval fire support missions, and US Marine Corps aircraft dropped parachutists. It's truly a versatile machine, and also a very nimble one, an aileron roll coming up on this pass. Coming in once more for a topside flypath, showing the upper surfaces of this very distinctive twin-boomed machine. Much later than the early service in Vietnam, US Marine Corps Broncos were used in Operation Desert Storm in the Gulf in 1991.
She's just nipped back to the car for something. She's coming back to sit down there.
Performed very well in the Gulf in 91, but by now the aircraft was becoming increasingly vulnerable, particularly to ground fire. The US Air Force didn't use its OV-10s in 1991 for that reason, and all Broncos, the California Department of Forestry flies Broncos on fire spotting, which passed back somewhat to the flight's forward air control duties, and the US State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement has civilian-operated Broncos for counter-drug spraying. That was Tony's penultimate pass. I believe he's going to come in once more for a final run through, making a steep approach and going round, retracting the gear and departing back to his operating base at Edinburgh Airport. There will, however, be a chance to see the aircraft once again later, because Tony will be flying both in a Vietnam War set piece and in a second solo slot. That is the second part of today's programme this afternoon. To climb away from us at the first appearance by Tony De Bruyn in the North American OV-10B Bronco. Martin Carrington, a very experienced vintage aircraft exponent. Vic Norman, the founder of this team, one of the most experienced display pilots in the world. Vic's justifiably proud that he's now managed to earn a living in the display industry for over 28 years. Another pass now by the girls, who taking advantage of the swivelling rigs atop the wings of the two steermen. This group is with these beautiful ladies 30 Stearman harking back to the
forgot to put in milk. I left it in the fridge.
interwar period when Spahn saw
Oh, well.
all the rage. Catholic pilots, not long back from the First World War, two of the States developed to attract huge crowds, just as the right-wing wing walkers perform in front of it, displays around the country. On this pass, you'll be seeing them come in to what they call the right-wing bumps. About 100 feet. The Stearman powered by an uprated 450 horsepower Pratt & Whitney radial engine. This, in a rather less powerful form, was the United States Army Air Force's standard primary trainer of the interwar years and well into World War II, training thousands of aspiring young pilots. Positioning turn, girls over on their sides there through that turn. This now starting the opposition's part of the team display. They'll be coming in at about 100 knots and 100 feet for opposition's bumps on the next pass. Distinctive noise of the 450 horsepower Pratt & Whitney radials caused by the propeller tipstone supersonic. To see from the Sea King is a search and rescue demonstration. The helicopter having run in, now turning in to deposit an air crewman. The original Boom 131 Youngman was the first design of Bucher Flugzeugbau, a company founded by Karl Bucher at Johannisthal near Berlin in 1932. It soon moved its factory to Rangsdorf, not far from there.
Good eye on you. And it's reassuring for you as well, Sue. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it says, well, when was the last time Margaret saw you?
And then even more.
I don't know.
Zada, he says, is extremely heavy.
She might not
He's making
recognise
light work of it in what's a very spirited display.
We got a poker night sorted for like the end of September or something.
And here is Stewart coming in for his final pass in the replica Airco DH2. De Havilland was already developing a twin for the Iraqi Air Force. It was initially dubbed the Dragon Moth, later simply the Dragon, and it was able to carry 6 to 10 passengers. Operated the first ever scheduled service of the Irish national airline Aer Lingus.
A further public announcement with regards to the 2-year-old girl Celeste Bryden, who has gone missing from her parents near to the fire engine at the police seatbelt stand. Bullion Borders Police are just asking everybody to take some time and
Services around Scotland in the 1930s, a rugged, dependable, easy to maintain mount was required, and the Dragon was exactly that. It was used by Highland Airways, Scottish Motor Traction and Midland and Scottish Air Ferries. Highland Airways was perhaps the most famous of those. It was founded by Captain E.E. Fresson, the great pioneer of air services in the far north of Scotland. He used them for passenger and airmail flights. A Dragon it was that operated the first mail flight between Orkney and the mainland, and it was another Dragon that became the first land plane ever to touch down on Shetland.
It's a different world though now.
Many years later, the fuselage was restored in New South Wales. Then it was bought by Torquil Norman, who has established a very fine collection of de Havilland vintage aeroplanes at Rencombe in Gloucestershire. The airframe was shipped to the UK for completion and in the hands of Henry Lab.
Hang on.
To fly these things.
In the Concorde hangar, yeah.
Was in its initial form, and it soon attracted the attention of the military. It was used by schools involved in the US civilian pilot training program from 1938 onwards. 80% of all US military pilots at that time trained initially on J3s, and at its peak, production totaled one aircraft and J3 Cubs were eventually produced, mainly in the USA, and the military variants were numerous, known largely as the L4, the Grasshopper, and over 5,700 Cubs were delivered to the US military in J3 and later L4 form. Type saw extensive service in every theatre of World War II. Its roles included artillery spotting, medical evacuation, liaison duties and light in-field transport. And the invasion stripes painted on this L4 recall the type's use, particularly in the observation post role around the time of D-Day in 1944. This Cub's history is interesting. If you look on the online version of the Civil Aviation Authority's aircraft register, it says it was built in 1946, but Jim McTaggart says that a data plate on the aircraft has been found Good demonstration there of the Grasshopper's low and slow flying capabilities. It was an aircraft that had to be extremely manoeuvrable for its role in the battlefield spotting role, able to turn low and slow over the battlefield and make repeated passes in a relatively small area. British flying displays. That in Vietnam. It was a bloody affair, of course, in Southeast Asia during the majority of the 1960s into the mid-1970s. And here we see an aircraft and hear a sound. This the ubiquitous shape and the unmistakable noise of the Bell UH-1H, officially named the Iroquois, but better known as the Huey. It was named as such because the type was initially designated HU-1. That was later changed to UH-1 in 1962, and it was a design that was constantly improved throughout its life. This is the UH-1H, the most common version of them all. The Huey was used by all the US arms. UH-1 is perhaps most indelibly associated with the role in the Vietnam War. The US Army example is to arrive at the It did so in March 1962, and there it performed almost all the roles you could think of for a helicopter: air assault, medevac, general purpose transport, gunship, and so on. A Huey force alone could undertake almost a complete assault mission, some transporting troops in, while others, fitted with machine guns or rockets, provided protection. Official figures state that over 7,000 Hueys served in Vietnam. More than 3,300 of those were destroyed, the loss of around 2,200 of their crew members. Those who survived was named James P. Fleming. He was a USAF lieutenant, and he won the Medal of Honor for his actions flying a Huey in Vietnam. The citation said that Captain Fleming went to the aid of a 6-man Special Forces long-range reconnaissance patrol that was in danger of being overrun by a large armed hostile force. Original landing maneuver. Disregarding his own safety, he remained in this exposed position. Hostile fire crashed through his windscreen as the patrol boarded his helicopter. Captain Fleming made a successful takeoff through a barrage of hostile fire and recovered safely at a foreign base. Just one example of the heroism of the UH-1 crews in Southeast Asia during the long years of that campaign. This helicopter was there. It served in Vietnam with the 129th Assault Helicopter Company of the US Army until 1973. UH-1H is...
I need a toilet. Mom.
Won't...
Hi, Mom.
Douglas AD4NA Skyraider. The early Skyraiders were hugely successful during the Korean War of 1950 to 53, operating as carrier-based attack platforms with both the US Navy and Marine Corps. They flew by day and night, and one of them even notched up an air-to-air kill of one of the North Koreans' Polikarpov Po-2 biplanes that were sent as sneak attack aircraft. Skyraiders were used throughout the Korean conflict, but that wasn't the last action they were going to see. Skyraider, the type starting out in Vietnam in the early 60s as a US Navy attack aircraft. At that time it was still to be superseded by jets. It's performed the strike role in the initial US Navy attacks of the war in 1964. But in Vietnam, it was really with the US Air Force that the type achieved the greatest actions of note. The USAF used the A-1 to support its rescue helicopters, and they became known as Sandys. Their call sign was Sandy. And there were so many heroic deeds by USAF Sky Raider pilots in Vietnam, not least a mission on the 1st of September 1968, during which Colonel William A. Jones, an air commando assigned to the 602nd Special Operations Squadron, won the Medal of Honor. Rescue of a downed US pilot. His Sky Raider was repeatedly hit by anti-aircraft fire. On one pass, he felt an explosion beneath his Sky Raider and his cockpit filled with acrid smoke, but nonetheless he continued his search for the downed pilot. He continued to attack and more to the enemy's gun position, but on the second pass, his aircraft was hit by multiple rounds of automatic weapons fire. The canopy made the fire worse, and he was suffering searing pains from burns on his arms, shoulders and face. Pulled his aircraft into a climb, still attempting to fly his crippled aircraft back to base, passing on sufficient information to effect a successful rescue. Jones landed his Sky Raider and passed the information to a debriefing officer while he was on the hospital operating table. After Vietnam, the French Air Force had sold its Sky Raiders to numerous other officers. Gabon continued to use them. This had served with the Gabonese Air Force and been sold in the This is its first season as a flying display aircraft, and it's one of only 2 OV-10s flying in Europe, the other being in France. Tony keeps it at Kortrijk-Wevelgem in Belgium. His second Bronco should be ready fairly soon, and then he intends to operate them as a pair, initially both in their Luftwaffe target tug markings, though repaints into US military colours are a distinct possibility. And for the second time today, a chance to say farewell to Tony De Bruyne in the North American OV-10B Bronco as he makes a steep approach into a go-around before departing. May well you wave and applaud, because that was a super display. Now this is definitely the last pass by the Bronco.
No thanks. No thanks.
He reports that a new engine has been installed in this Jet Provost for the 2010 season, and now into its second year. This power plant will help preserve the aircraft in airworthy condition for many more years to come. Not an awfully powerful motor, the Rolls-Royce Viper 102, with about 1,750 pounds of thrust, but nonetheless to propel the jet to a maximum speed. It's a bit of fun. He says it's an easy aeroplane to fly, and in fact he says any private pilot with a PPL can fly the Jet Provost with as little as 5 hours of training. In 1958 and 1962. Today, the type very popular around the world in civilian hands following the retirement from RAF service, as indeed is the armed derivative of the Jet Provost. Smoke on. Diving back down towards each other. Beautifully done. From our final display item, you surely can't miss this aeroplane, the Hawker Hunter F-58A, named Misdemeanor. Well, it was 60 years ago, on the 20th of July 1951, the prototype Hawker P1067 made its maiden flight from Boscombe Down in Wiltshire in the hands of the legendary test pilot Neville Buke. Started to achieve their full potential as a fighter, thanks also to the use of bigger 200 series Rolls-Royce Abrams. Before that, great prestige had been captured by the Hunter when, on the 7th of September 1953, Neville Buke, in the first prototype converted to Hunter F3 form, set a new world speed record for Britain. Of RAF Fighter Command's day fighter force in the Farnborough in 1958 linked 22 Hunters twice in formation.
Okay, baby. Hang on. Yeah. Until 1994, were the last Hunter T7 trainers of the RAF, which were used for buccaneer crew training purposes, retired to Lossiemouth. The Royal Navy used them also, and the type was hugely successful on the export market. 21 countries other than the UK operated Hunters. The best known perhaps in Britain, those of the Swiss Air Force, especially through their aerobatic team, the Patrouille Suisse. This this, performing slow passes nearly with the gear and flaps down perhaps.
Maybe watch this.
So in this case, because the pilot of this hunter, Jonathan Whaley, has another trick up his sleeve. He's running in for his slow pass, and I fully expect the canopy to be back on this run, and that he'll be giving you a wave, so do wave back. And there he is with the canopy back on that run. This year is the 75th anniversary of the Spitfire, so he's got wide experience of that type, and he flew in celebrations for the 50th and 60th anniversaries of the Hunter as well.
Margot goes back and says the blues.
Here it comes.
Look how I'll get to the car.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Ring, ding, 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 ring, ding, ding, ding. Ready, I'm ready to go. 5 minutes.